Okay, forget, like, everything you thought you knew about the NBA playoffs for just a second.
Right, because something big just happened.
Totally. A seismic shift, you could say, and two absolute legends felt the tremor firsthand. Big time.
Yeah.
How did a 22-year-old basically dismantle LeBron James and Luka Dončić in a single game? I mean, really dismantle them.
It's the big question, isn't it?
Could this one performance, this Game 3, be the moment we actually look back on and say, okay, that's when everything started to change?
Might just be.
So today, we are diving deep into what feels like an undeniable truth that emerged from that game. The Lakers, well, they have an Anthony Edwards problem. A serious one. We're going to dissect the sources, the takes that really lay bare how Edwards didn't just, score points. He seemed to crack the very foundation of their confidence.
Yeah, that's the key takeaway from a lot of the analysis we looked at.
So our mission today is to really understand the anatomy of this problem and what it signals for the immediate future.
And what's really striking right off the bat in the sources is that laser focus on Edwards' impact specifically against the Lakers. It's not just, oh, he had a good game.
No, not at all.
It's framed as a direct confrontation. And honestly, a dismantling of what the Lakers were probably hoping to achieve defensively. The whole narrative shifts.
Right. It's less about a team win, more about Edwards just establishing dominance over their key guys.
Exactly.
Okay, let's zero in on that dominance then. The raw stats, what was it, 29 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. Yeah. They look good on paper, sure. Solid.
Very solid.
But the sources we're digging into, they paint a picture of something, well, way more impactful. They're using phrases like Edwards shattering the Lakers' defensive spirit and cracking their superstar pride. I mean, what specific things on the court do you think actually lead to that kind of, psychological hit?
Well, that's the layer beyond the box score, isn't it? It wasn't just that he scored, it was how he scored and when. The sources point to plays where Edwards just blew by Luka, with ease. Think about what that does psychologically to a player like Dončić, known for his offense, but suddenly he just can't stay in front.
Right, it exposes a weakness.
And then against LeBron. Even with LeBron's defensive IQ, his positioning, Edwards was still making tough shots, finding angles. That sends a message.
Yeah.
And maybe the biggest thing, those passes when the help came, pinpoint. It just undermines the whole defensive scheme, makes them feel like, okay, what do we do?
It's like death by 1,000 cuts almost.
Exactly. It's that constant feeling of being a step behind. That's what really chips away at a team spirit, especially a veteran team like the Lakers.
And it feels like the sources are suggesting LeBron and Luka looked, well, almost uncharacteristically overwhelmed by it all. They use descriptions like old, slow, and lost compared to Edwards.
Yeah, those are strong words.
Can you point to maybe specific examples the sources highlighted that really illustrate that contrast?
Well, they definitely emphasized Edwards' speed and just his burst. Against Luka, it wasn't just getting past him, it was the quickness of it. Left him looking flat-footed sometimes, according to the analysis.
Okay.
And with LeBron, even when James was right there, Edwards' ability to elevate or use that step back or just find a way to score, it suggested maybe a physical edge in those specific moments, that youthful explosiveness. And when they doubled him, the speed of his decision-making, getting the ball out to open shooters before the defense could fully rotate, it just negated their strategy really effectively.
So it wasn't like LeBron and Luka just forgot how to play.
No, of course not. But Edwards' level, his athleticism, his processing speed in those key moments, it just made them look less effective than we're used to seeing.
Now, here's something the sources really hammered home, what they called the most disrespectful part. Edwards actively seeking out matchups against LeBron and Luka in crunch time.
Yeah, that stood out.
Game tied, 103-103, and the sources say he wanted Luka on the switch. He wanted LeBron in isolation. What does that tell you about his mindset? And what message is that sending?
Oh, it speaks volumes, doesn't it? That's not just confidence. That's, well, it's competitive audacity. It's almost confrontational.
Right.
By deliberately going at two of the game's absolute icons, with the game hanging in the balance, Edwards is basically saying, yeah, I think I'm the best player on the floor right now.
Wow.
And for LeBron and Luka, guys who are used to being the players others avoid in those spots, it's a direct challenge. To their status, maybe even plants a little seed of doubt, makes them think twice.
Absolutely. I mean, what do you think it feels like as an opposing superstar to have this young guy basically demanding to go right at you when everything's on the line?
It has to be jarring, maybe even a bit demoralizing, like you said. The sources detailed how those last minutes played out. Edwards hitting step backs, attacking the rim, finding the open man every time.
They called it a hostile takeover.
Yeah, that phrase captures it. But it wasn't just the offense, was it? The sources were clear he was bringing it on D, too.
Exactly. That block on Rui Hachimura they mentioned,
Yep.
That's a statement play.
For sure. It shows he wasn't coasting after scoring. He was locked in, forcing turnovers, playing with real intensity on both ends. And the sources argue he was dominating both ends at an MVP level. And they imply that's something maybe LeBron and Luka can't consistently sustain anymore night after night at this stage.
That two-way dominance, that's a huge part of this Anthony Edwards problem for LA, isn't it?
It has to be. You can't just scheme to stop his scoring because he's impacting the game everywhere. Rebounds, assists, defense.
And this whole performance,
Yeah.
it just flies in the face of some of those earlier narratives about him, right?
Yeah.
That he wasn't serious enough, didn't love the game, too focused on fun.
Oh, yeah. Go on.
Now the sources are calling him a damn savage. What do you think flipped that switch so dramatically in perception?
Well, performances like this one, under the playoff microscope, that's what does it. The talent was never in doubt, you know?
Right.
But seeing that focus, that intensity, that clear, undeniable will to dominate and win when the stakes are highest, that provides the evidence. It shuts down the old narratives. The savage label just reflects this newfound respect for his competitive fire.
And the sources even gave us a peek behind the curtain, didn't they? Talking about his film study after Game 2.
Yeah, the 4 a.m. sessions, rewatching at 6 a.m., that's dedication.
It paints a picture of just meticulous preparation. And the irony, which the sources point out, is that LeBron, Mr. Student of the Game, and Luka, this supposed future face of the league, they seem to be the ones getting schooled by Edwards' homework in this matchup.
It's a powerful lesson, isn't it? That talent is huge, obviously. But in the playoffs, combining that talent with relentless preparation, that's the difference maker. Edwards clearly dissected the Lakers' defense. He came in with a plan. It just highlights that being a student of the game isn't just about reputation, it's about the actual work, that hunger to keep learning and adapting.
It makes you wonder, what are some ways you see that kind of prep paying off in other areas, outside of sports?
Oh, absolutely. It applies everywhere.
Yeah.
But sticking to basketball, what's maybe even scarier for the Lakers is the source suggesting, hey, this wasn't even Anthony Edwards' best game.
Right. If this wasn't his absolute peak, what does that say about his ceiling and this ongoing Anthony Edwards problem?
Well, it's a pretty terrifying thought for the rest of the league, isn't it? If he can do this when he's not even at his absolute best, it suggests a level of consistency and a potential for growth that's just incredibly high.
Yeah.
That fourth quarter dominance we saw, taking over on both ends when it mattered most, that signals a player who's not just arriving, he's ascending rapidly.
That phrase from the sources, playoff basketball belongs to the hungry, not the comfortable, that really hits home here, doesn't it?
It really does. And Edwards seems absolutely ravenous right now.
And we can't not talk about the dunk. The one over Jackson Hayes.
Oh, man.
Disrespectful on a historical level, one source called it. I mean, a 7-footer, full extension, 2 hands. Zero fear.
It's an all-timer highlight for sure. It'll be on loops for years.
But what's really interesting is the point the sources made. Dunks aren't even his main thing anymore, which is wild considering how athletic he is.
Exactly. The dunk is like the flashy exclamation point. It shows the raw athleticism, the fearlessness. But the fact that it's almost secondary now, that tells you everything about his evolution as a player. His shooting is better, his basketball IQ, his decision-making in the clutch. That's becoming his signature, that cold-blooded murder in the playoffs mentality, as they put it. That's what makes him more than just an athlete.
And the sources rightly gave props to Jaden McDaniels, too, highlighting that duo wasn't just Ant.
Oh, absolutely crucial. Edwards himself would want McDaniels mentioned. You get that sense?
Yeah, like they got Luka and LeBron. We got Jaden and Ant. McDaniels locking up Luka defensively at times and then dropping 30 points. That changes the whole dynamic.
Completely. It forces the Lakers or any opponent to account for another major threat. You can't just load up on Edwards if McDaniels is punishing you like that.
So is this turning the Lakers have an Anthony Edwards problem into more of a Lakers have a Timberwolves problem because of that duo?
I think it has to, right? That Batman and Robin potential, maybe even shades of, dare I say, Jordan and Pippen in terms of two-way impact down the line. It makes the Wolves incredibly dangerous. It's not just one guy anymore.
Okay, so let's wrap this up, bringing it all together. What's the ultimate takeaway here about this Anthony Edwards problem for the Lakers? The sources are pretty bold. This is a fluke. This is the future. And Anthony Edwards is not coming. Anthony Edwards is here. Is that just playoff hype? Or are we really seeing a fundamental shift?
Well, based on the evidence from Game 3 laid out in these sources, the argument for a real shift it's pretty compelling. Edwards' performance, especially against those two legends, combined with his two-way game and McDaniel stepping up, it really does suggest a changing of the guard is happening, or at least starting.
Yeah.
The Lakers and maybe the whole league are facing this new reality. Anthony Edwards is a dominant force, and his impact is way bigger than just scoring.
So the core issue, the problem, is that he's shown he can outperform their stars in the biggest moments. And he's doing it with a confidence, maybe even a swagger, backed up by intense preparation that seems to have caught them off balance.
Exactly. It feels less like one great game and more like a statement. A potential blueprint for how to beat them. Study harder, play tougher, attack fearlessly, punish mistakes.
And for you listening to this deep dive, think about this. Edwards' relentless approach, his dedication, his fearlessness, it looks like it's disrupting the established order in the NBA. What parts of that approach, maybe, could you apply to challenges you're facing?
That's a great question. And what does it really mean for the league going forward if this new generation, led by guys like Edwards, is truly bringing this level of intensity and skill?
Yeah, lots to think about. We'd love to hear what stood out most to you from this deep dive into the Anthony Edwards problem. Let us know your thoughts.
Please do.
And hey, if you found this breakdown insightful, do us a favor, like and subscribe. We'll be back with more deep dives into the stories shaping the game and the world around us.